But you see these Asians, you see these BMWs, Audi, and all that. Why do you think?
I really need you to understand this. Who is paying the tariff?
The government that is manufacturing that product is all we're saying is this. Look, I just want it to be even. Instead of us paying 400% of tariffs.
How you doing?
Hey, good. I don't want.
I want to. I'm an importer and exporter.
Yeah.
For 20 years.
Okay.
When a product comes into the U.S., there's something called a tariff sheet.
Okay.
I, as the buyer of that product, follow U.S. law and pay the tariff. Some goods are tariff-free. But when I pay that tariff, I'm an American citizen, I'm an American taxpayer, right? That tariff might be 1%, it might be 7%,
okay.
It might be 14%. That means I'm a U.S. company, I pay that tariff to the U.S. government, and that increase in the cost of the product, I then sell to you for a higher price because I've got to cover that tariff.
Then what about? What do you say to the Europeans who allow us to not charge us as much tariffs as when our tariffs are higher when they go overseas as opposed to theirs coming here?
So tariffs are never a zero-sum game. Tariffs are a tool. So, for example, you might say, you want to sell us your beans, right?
Yeah.
We are going to give you a low tariff if you buy our corn, right? But the cost of the tariff is ultimately always borne by the consumer. The end consumer always pays the tariff.
But then don't you think at the end of the day there may be more competition within the market of the U.S. government if not only now there's not the cheap Chinese product coming in, but you also now have the American manufacturer.
You're confusing the question. This is not a question of competition. The point we're discussing is who bears the cost of the tariff.
Okay.
I couldn't tell you if it's good policy for the U.S. government to tax beans and for the Chinese government to tariff corn. I don't know if there's any you can't compare those. That's beyond my expertise. But what I can absolutely assure you on my eyes is that a product that comes into the U.S. is paid for by a U.S. company, and the increased cost of that is borne by all of us.
I can't.
That has never.
I can't count. I am
an importer and exporter. I do it for a living.
Okay.
I have a tariff sheet that's bigger than 500 Bibles.
Then what's the alternative? If at one point in our history, in our country's history, it was tariffs that paid for our economy.
Tariffs don't pay for your economy.
But they did. We didn't have income taxes before. Before income taxes, the country survived by tariffs.
That was before we had municipal.
Before the introduction of income taxes in the U.S., which became permanent with the 16th Amendment in 1913, the federal government was primarily funded through the following sources. First, tariffs' main source of revenue, 1789 through 1913. The government relied heavily on taxes on imported goods. Tariffs were used both to raise money and to protect domestic industries from foreign competition. We also relied heavily on excise taxes, or consumption taxes. These were taxes on specific goods like whiskey, tobacco, sugar, and carriages. Whiskey tax, 1791. This led to the Whiskey Rebellion in Pennsylvania, when farmers resisted the tax on distilled spirits. But we must understand the main source of funds to run the government came from. Land sales. The U.S. government sold large portions of federal land to settlers, businesses, and railroads. Homestead Act, 1862, encouraged settlement of Western lands, generating revenue from land sales. The federal government also issued bonds and loans. In times of war, like the War of 1812 and the Civil War, the government borrowed money by selling bonds to the public and foreign investors. Property taxes. States often mandated taxes on your real estate and personal property to fund their operations. Then we transitioned to our current means of finance. The income tax. The first federal income tax was briefly introduced during the Civil War, 1861 to 1872, to help fund the war effort. After the war, tariffs and excise taxes returned as the main revenue sources. The 16th Amendment, 1913, allowed the federal government to tax personal income, shifting away from tariffs and excise taxes as the primary revenue source. But don't for a second think that tariffs are paid by somebody else. You, the consumer, pay for tariffs in the form of higher prices.
Infrastructure.
Correct.
I mean, we did not have.
And also too of like, well, the competition argument that American products are going to be in the marketplace a little more is, I think, kind of bullshit, because the reason we get so much from China is because their labor laws are so poor and they can afford to pay people like shit for shit quality products. If you want American goods in circulation, they're already going to cost more because we have better labor laws and we take care of our workers. So if you want American products in the marketplace made cheaper through tariffs, you're going to have to really screw American workers, pay them less, give them less benefits, no health care. Like, it's not a good idea to have 100% American-made products, because it'll be so expensive, and you're already complaining about high prices.
I don't think the effort is suggesting that it's only 100%. What they're saying is make it a even playing field. My understanding is that the tariff is lopsided to benefit other countries as opposed to ours. The suggestion is just to bring it up to make it equal. That's it.
You're framing this in a way that doesn't make any sense. Tariffs are not about equalization, right? They're about access to the marketplace.
Okay.
So you cannot say, like, for example, a company in the US may feel that a certain technology from a different country is advantageous, they can sell it here at a profit, right? That doesn't mean that the US government or some Chinese or German or Australian company has some kind of like equalization calculus that they're engaging. Oh, because we're sending our products there, therefore it's good that we're bringing it. That's not how tariffs work. That's not how tariffs work.
But the trade relationship between two countries, tariffs come into play with the trade relationships between countries.
That's why you have free trade agreements, right?
Right.
But it doesn't mean that even within the free trade agreement there are not tariffs. There are multiple millions of tariff agreements between countries. The European Union may have free trade agreements within it, but there are products that go out that are still tariffed.
Yes.
But it's still the consumer. But the consumer, I absolutely assure you, I do this for a living, the consumer bears the cost. Now, it may be that an imported product, even with a tariff, supplants a domestic product, but you don't want that, because that's going to affect American jobs. If there's one thing you should take away from this extended conversation, is you are always paying the tariff. Me, you, everyone here is always paying the tariff.
Fair enough.
There is no economic reality in contradiction to that.
Okay, you know what? I'm not educated in that. Fair enough. I'm willing. Yeah, okay.
I really love your work, man.
All right, thank you.
All socials. It's great to meet you.
Thank you,
so much.
man.
Have a good
Cheers.
day.
It was a pleasure.
Let's go.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Can I get a photo?
Thank you.
Mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
No. You, that was a fucking.